In tonight's news edition, His Majesty the King and Crown Prince Al-Hussein joined members of the Christian community in the kingdom in their celebration of Christmas and the New Year in a major ceremony held in Madaba. In the continued violence in Syria, more than 300 people are killed in 7 days of air raids in the city of Aleppo. And as fighting spreads in South Sudan, the UN says it will recommend an increase in peacekeeping forces to better protect civilians from violence that has brought the country to the verge of civil war. Good evening and very warm welcome to the news. His Majesty the King and Crown Prince Al-Hussein joined members of the Christian community in the kingdom in their celebration of Christmas and the New Year in a major ceremony held in the city of Madaba. Patriarch of the Holy City of Jerusalem, all Palestine and Jordan, Theophilus III, said the Orthodox Church of Jerusalem and other Muslim and Christian sanctuaries in the Holy City appreciate the King's relentless endeavors towards achieving peace and stability in the Middle East. He added that Christians in the kingdom are proud to be part of the Jordanian society, joining their fellow citizens in building a bright future under the wise Hashemite leadership. Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Fuad al-Twal, commended the king's efforts to preserve the Arab-Christian presence in the region and paid tribute to remarks by His Majesty on interfaith dialogue, in which he said, preserving the Christian presence is not a favor, but a duty. His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, ordered the housing loans meant for non-commissioned officers and the military rank and file to be increased to 10,000 dinars from 7,500. The King also ordered the number of monthly beneficiaries to be increased to 350 per month as of January 1st, 2014. His Majesty gave directives for allocating 400 housing units for officers, non-commissioned officers and the military rank and file. The armed forces, acting upon His Majesty's directives, will earmark new apartments for officers whose turn for housing loans will be due soon. The apartments will be handed out at 30% less than their real cost. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour stressed the need to boost coordination and keep channels open with all government departments and agencies to define priorities and address them. The remarks came during a meeting he chaired for the Higher Council of Civil Defense to discuss and evaluate the performance of various government departments during the recent snowstorm that hit the country. His Royal Highness Prince Ali ibn Hussein, who chairs the National Center for Security and Crisis Management, said the center was established to serve all Jordanians. He added that the center is fully ready to deal with any crisis and provide all forms of support to the government agencies. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour received from Chairman of the Jordan Press Foundation, Samih Al-Maida, a copy of Jordan in a Year report, which is annually prepared by Al-Ra'i Center for Studies. The report analyzes the political, economic, media, education and society situation, in addition to opportunities and challenges that faced Jordan in 2013. The report was prepared following brainstorming sessions that were attended by experts and specialists. Mansour, who received the report in the presence of State Minister for Media Affairs Mohammed Al-Momani, praised efforts exerted to prepare the report, stressing the importance of its recommendations and results for decision-making. And over to Syria, where more than 300 people were killed in 7 days of air raids in the city of Aleppo. Many of the casualties, who included scores of women and children, were killed by so-called barrel bombs dropped from helicopters. Yesterday's attacks left at least 42 people killed, including children in the city. A school used by Syrians fleeing the fighting in other areas in the town of Mara was also targeted by Syrian aircrafts. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said separate air raids also hit several districts of the city. The rebels launched a bombardment of Aleppo's airport and a nearby airbase. The attack was in retaliation for recent air attacks by government forces on rebel-held areas of Aleppo. Iraqi gunmen wearing explosive vests seized a television station in the northern city of Tikrit and killed 4 employees, prompting a fight with security forces who retook the building and killed the militants. Police sources said 4 gunmen stormed the local government channel building after detonating a bomb in a car parked near the entrance. 2 of the attackers blew themselves up when security forces raided the station, and the others were killed in the clashes before they managed to detonate the explosive vest they were wearing. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon is expected to ask the UN Security Council to boost the number of peacekeeping troops in South Sudan to about 12,000. South Sudan's ex-Vice President Riek Machar said he's ready for dialogue to end the conflict, but said President Salva Kiir must first release his detained political allies. Hundreds of people have been killed, with reports of summary executions and ethnically targeted killings. The U.S. Africa Command is repositioning its forces as the U.S. military prepares for the possibility of further evacuations of U.S. and other citizens from South Sudan. Here's more.
Fighting spread in South Sudan, and the UN said it was trying to move more peacekeeping forces in the hope of averting full-blown ethnic civil war in the world's newest state. The United Mission to South Sudan said it was evacuated its non-essential staff as well as wounded civilians from the town of Bor as heavy fighting between government forces and the rebels continue. Currently 15,000 civilians are sheltered within the UN compound in Bor. An estimated 20,000 persons have crossed the adjacent state, fleeing the violence. The resident humanitarian coordinator and deputy chief of the United Mission in South Sudan returned from Bor on board a helicopter carrying 7 wounded civilians.
I think the thing that we need most is we need the people who are causing all of this to get everybody under control. As I left our base and went to the airport in Bor, there was a lot of looting, a lot of gunshots, a lot of dead bodies, and very, very out of control youth, heavily armed, and that needs to be brought under control.
The acting spokesperson of the UN mission in South Sudan spoke of what the mission was doing to help civilians in the area.
UNMISS is continuing to provide shelter and medical treatment to an estimated 5,200 civilians who have gathered inside the UNMISS compound north of the Unity State capital of Bentiu. Our resources are stretched very, very tightly, but we are continuing to stand by the people of Unity State. The mission has a collective resolve to remain in South Sudan and will not be intimidated and will continue to fulfill its mandate to protect civilians.
The UN has evacuated all non-essential staff from the camp because of the ongoing fighting. The UN's humanitarian coordinator in South Sudan said during a recent visit to Bor that many of the humanitarian compounds there had been looted, a lot of gunshots and a lot of dead bodies. The UN was now sheltering about 42,000 civilians across South Sudan and would not leave the country despite worsening security situation.
We have in 2 United Nations mission in South Sudan bases just in Juba over 20,000 people, an average of about 10,000 in each of the locations. And these are people who have been here in these locations since about the 16th of December. And most of them are afraid to go out. So basically they are not getting enough food, living in very horrid conditions.
Western powers and East African states want to prevent the fighting from destabilizing a fragile African region and have tried to mediate between the 2 parties. But so far their efforts have been fruitless and clashes enter their 2nd week. Faraj Louni for the news at 10.
In Turkey, thousands took to the streets of Istanbul to protest against the government over a corruption scandal that has led to multiple arrests and exposed a rift between Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan and an influential US-based Muslim cleric. Erdogan called it a dirty operation to undermine his rule. In response, he has sacked or moved to different posts about 70 police officers in a widening crackdown on the force that launched the investigation. This report has more.
After a summer of riots, is Turkey on the brink again? It's the same demand: the government must resign. Thousands taking part in this protest in Istanbul. This time the anger is fueled by allegations of widespread corruption. Police are leading an inquiry into officials at the highest level, some very close to the Premier, Tayyip Erdogan. A day earlier, 24 people were charged, including the sons of 2 government ministers and the head of the state-owned Halkbank. Protesters marking his arrest with shoeboxes after media reports they were found filled with cash at his house. For his part, Erdogan has sacked or moved some 70 police chiefs in a crackdown on the force that opened the investigation, and told supporters at a rally in northern Turkey that unnamed foreign powers were playing a part.
These recent days, very strangely, ambassadors have been involved in some provocative acts. I am calling on them from here: do your job. If you leave your area of duty, this could extend into our jurisdiction.
Although he didn't name him, Erdogan also holds responsible a recent former close ally. The secretive Islamic cleric Fethullah Gulen lives in a religious compound in the United States, but wields huge influence through a chain of religious schools and a massive popular following, including, it suggested, parts of the Turkish police and prosecution service. The crisis hasn't yet reached the pitch of the summer unrest, but foreign investors are keeping an eye on things. Peter Dixon of Commerzbank.
If we do get a significant mounting of unrest and we get much more protest on the streets of Istanbul, that's certainly going to make investors think again about whether they're prepared to invest in Turkey at current exchange rates.
Erdogan's position is thought to be safe for now, but the row may help decide local elections in March, even more so as Gulen's influence has helped Erdogan's AK party win its share of the vote in 3 successive past elections.
And back here at home, Her Majesty Queen Rania honoured the winners of the 8th Teacher Award and the 3rd Principal Award cycles. Her Majesty expressed her pride in this distinguished group of educators who add great value to Jordan with their knowledge, morals and dedication. The Queen mentioned that over the past few years she had come across various success stories of educators who had made the profession of teaching and children the core of their lives. The Queen also highlighted that a capable teacher is one who can discover hidden talents in students, parents and even in communities, and then proceeds to invest in them so as to benefit their bearer and world at large. During the event, Mohammed Znebat, Minister of Education, thanked Her Majesty for all her efforts that aim to improve the educational process in Jordan. Director of Queen Rania Award for Excellence in Education, Lubna Touqan, explained that the association had developed its system and evaluation process over the past couple of years to increase the number of educators who have a chance to be recognized at the Kingdom and Directorate levels. The inventor of the Kalashnikov assault rifle, Mikhail Kalashnikov, has died aged 94. The automatic rifle he designed became one of the world's most familiar and widely used weapons. Its comparative simplicity made it cheap to manufacture, as well as reliable and easy to maintain. His work on the AK-47 was completed in 1947, and 2 years later the gun was adopted by the Soviet Army. In Soviet times, he was twice honored as Hero of Socialist Labor and became a Stalin Prize and Lenin Prize laureate. Once a Red Army sergeant, he was given the rank of colonel in 1969 and rose to a 2-star general by the end of his life. Kalashnikov refused to accept responsibility for the many people killed by his weapon, blaming the policies of other countries that acquired it. Now let's go to Paris, where a number of giraffes were left alone at the city's Vincennes Zoo. All right, I apologize for that. All right, we go to Hollywood Park, and before that, Stanbich and Sharka Panchakova took the honors at the FIS Snowboard Slopestyle World Cup race at Copper Mountain in Colorado. Riders from the Czech Republic, Norway and Switzerland claimed 5 of the 6 podium spots, with Norway's Sandbeck winning the men's event, while Panchakova of the Czech Republic claimed the women's title. Torstein Horgmo and Shaun White of the USA finished in second and third place respectively. In the women's event, Swiss Isabelle de Rangs finished in second and her compatriot Elena Coens finished in third. The next snowboard freestyle World Cup will take place in Canada in January 2014. Hollywood Park gave horse racing fans a run for their money one last time. The 75-year-old track near Los Angeles that was once the playground of movie industry elites closed down amid declining U.S. popularity for the sport. The Inglewood track held its last race yesterday after a long and steady decline in attendance. The end of the line for the track, officially called Betfair Hollywood Park, underscores the challenges facing the horse racing industry, which has seen its popularity erode as casinos and online gambling have proliferated. And outside in the sun, people filled only a few of the trackside seats in an area where crowds once roared. Finally, cold tonight in most parts of the country with freeze and frost formation, especially in the Badia Desert region and hilly areas, while winds will be southeasterly light to fresh. Tomorrow it will be relatively cold in the hilly areas and fair in the Jordan Valley and Aqaba, where temperatures are expected to hover around the low 20s. The port city of Aqaba should expect southerly dust-blowing winds and slightly choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King and Crown Prince Al-Hussein joined members of the Christian community in the kingdom in the celebration of Christmas and the New Year in a major ceremony held in the city of Madaba. In the continued violence in Syria, more than 300 people are killed in 7 days of air raids in the city of Aleppo. And as fighting spreads in South Sudan, the UN says it will recommend an increase in peacekeeping forces to better protect civilians from violence that has brought the country to the verge of civil war. And that's the end of tonight's news. My name is Ra'ad Laptouche. Thanks for watching and have a good night.